Allegations of corruption have tainted Saturday's presidential election in Nigeria. Will the people accept the result? And is stability more important? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Jane Dutton. It's a country of 140 million people, with nearly half of them aged under 14. Infant mortality is rampant, but the population's soaring, and poverty and joblessness are rife. This despite the fact that Nigeria is also West Africa's economic leader and is now democratic. And with presidential elections approaching, the world is watching anxiously to see what's going to happen. A country on the brink, violence that's seen up to 50 deaths in the last 7 days. It's a crucial turning point for Nigeria, Africa's most populous country and largest producer of oil. The current election period is a true test for this young democracy. After years of military misrule, this should mark the first transfer of power between elected civilian leaders since independence from Britain in 1960. But polls last weekend to choose state lawmakers flared into chaos with international charges of corruption.
I don't understand why there would have been a registration point here and then you tell me to go somewhere else. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense.
And Saturday's coming presidential elections signals further turmoil. Opposition groups threaten a boycott over ballot box abuse. In a nation mired by desperate poverty and a crippling population explosion, what future for those who already feel lucky just to survive? Joining us now are our guests, two experts on Nigeria. On the line from the Nigerian capital of Abuja, we have Felix Anua, a local journalist. Olusegun is a regular writer for the New African magazine and is based in London. And Mr. Gamal Nkrumah, an African affairs specialist, joins us from Cairo. Mr. Shane, should these elections go ahead?
Yes, I think the elections should go ahead, because we would consistently have this uproar about elections in Nigeria. There are too many things that are tied into elections, the logistics, the economic implications, and the figures we have on ground, that makes it exceedingly difficult for the Independent Electoral Commission to carry out its duties without people having this type of rancor. But then there are provisions in the constitution of the country as well. The supervisory body of the elections, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, are just supposed to supervise the elections. And once they've announced the results, which they've done with the last elections, then there are other steps for aggrieved people to take. This is
excuse me for butting in. The Election Commission is accused of being too close to Obasanjo.
Yes, that's what I was trying to clarify before now. I think the Election Commission got itself stumped in that they were trying to be modern as well. You have an electorate that's a bit traditional. Now you're bringing in new methods of conducting elections, which can be a little bit confusing for people who already have their doubts about your transparency and integrity. But the point, which is still on ground, is that the Constitution provides for anybody who is aggrieved with any election that's been done or conducted to seek recourse in the courts of law or the tribunals that are set up specifically for these purposes. And they've actually worked. We have precedents before now. The last elections threw up some state governors whose elections victories were challenged in courts, and they were overturned.
Okay, so let's stick with these elections. You say that there could be some sort of confusion, but that doesn't negate or go away from the fact that we've seen widespread violence and intimidation. Mr. Nkrumah, do you believe that these elections, despite all that, should go ahead?
Yes, I do think that in spite of all the problems that a country like Nigeria would face, that they should go ahead. It would be a great disappointment, not only for Nigeria, but for the whole continent, if the elections don't go as scheduled.
Okay, Mr. Anua, are you on the ground there finding out what Nigerians themselves think? Would they agree that these elections should go ahead regardless?
Yes, really, Nigerians really want a change of government. They will want something that will actually not want the election to go go ahead, like what happened yesterday, all the presidential candidates, the opposition parties, came together and called on the government to actually cancel the result of the last polls and also postpone the next election. Majority of Nigerians here don't really want that to happen. They want the polls to go ahead and for this government to exit, for a fresh government to come in. That's exactly the feelings of the majority of the people.
Okay, Mr. Shane, all three of you are agreed that these elections should go ahead. But if they do go ahead, won't this undermine the credibility of the president and the next government?
That's a very rhetorical question, because in the first place, most elections in Africa always have the question mark hanging over them, especially when an incumbent is seen to have some kind of power over what's going on. There would always be tales of undermining. I am not saying that this might not be going on, and I think to address the specific issues, that's why we've had recourse to the courts of law, to the tribunals after. Now, people who are calling for the cancellation of the elections, or the ones that have already been conducted, who exactly would do the cancellation? The Electoral Commission is not empowered to cancel the elections. They're just supposed to supervise it and announce results.
Yes, but 18 parties at this stage are threatening to boycott the elections. I mean, that could certainly make them null and void.
It would make the coming elections maybe not the best you can get, but it's not going to nullify the one that's already gone on. And yes, there can be room for postponement, but they don't have more than a week to postpone the elections.
Mr. Anua,
have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Anua, the Vice President, Abu Bakr, has slipped in at the last minute. What sort of threat does he pose to the President?
Yeah, to him, he claims that he pulls great popularity, that the President feels threatened if he participates, and that if he participates, that means his candidate will not win the polls. And that is why the President is doing all it can to make sure that he does not participate.
Yeah, but so if Mr. Abu Bakr does stand, will he not split the opposition?
Yeah, he certainly will split the opposition. He will definitely do that. Because we still have another contender who is Buhari, General Buhari, who also have a large followership. So he's just certainly going to fight the opposition. But the opposition, they were really working out a consensus candidate, which couldn't work out. They spent almost 2 nights, trying to reach an agreement on that, who will emerge from the other 20 and above, more than 20 presidential candidates who will emerge as one candidate. They couldn't reach an agreement. So really, it's between Buhari and Atiku, it is a great split of the opposition camp.
Okay, Mr. Nkrumah, regardless of who comes in, are we going to see a change of government here? A change of the style of governance, rather? Mr. Nkrumah,
yes, I believe that there's not really a great difference in the political platforms of the various parties in Nigeria. They have much the same economic agenda, much the same to offer, and most of the parties are led by the same political establishment elite in Nigeria, the ex-generals, who have now don civilian clothes. But really at heart, I think they are still very much military-minded. Also, they have it's a closed club. It's an old school's boys club. And I think they are moneyed, they are all billionaires, and so they don't really offer, no one of them offers something really different for the majority of Nigerians who are suffering. Today, the population of Nigeria is poorer than it was at independence from Britain in 1960. And I believe that in spite of its oil wealth, because of the rampant corruption in the country, in spite of the good work of the Economic and Financial Crimes Committee, yet I think that the problems of Nigeria are such that there is need for radical change. And I don't think any of the presidential candidates really offer that radical change from the past, from the military past of the country.
Okay, Mr. Anua, there must be some concern on the ground that if there is some sort of delay to the elections, that we will see an increase in violence.
Yes, there's that kind of fear, because we're already experiencing violence in the different states of the Federation, and we've recorded a couple of deaths and destructions of property. So really Nigeria, like I had said earlier, wants really the election to go ahead and let it come behind us. That's exactly what they want. They want the election to go ahead. Majority want the election to go ahead, and then let it be over, and put paid to this violence in different parts of the country.
Now, the election,
because the
election mess isn't the only big story going on in Nigeria. Nigerian troops are in the northern city of Kano, where they've been battling Islamic militants. Officials now say 25 people were killed. Al Jazeera's Mike Hanna is there, and this is the latest report we've had from him on Wednesday, just after noon GMT.
The whole situation began with an attack on a nearby police station by a group of armed fighters that claimed at least 13 lives of police officers and one of their relatives. Subsequently, an ambush was laid against a police convoy that moved in to deal with that situation. The army is still conducting its operations. We are told that there is no confirmation that either the military has suffered any casualties or indeed that the armed fighters have suffered any casualties, this despite one confirmed report that more than 20 of these armed fighters have been killed. Once again, these armed fighters have not been identified. It is not known where they come from, although the fact that they have been operating and moved into position with what appears to be heavy weaponry unnoticed would imply some kind of support in the local population. Now, the armed fighters told people we've spoken to in the past 24 hours that they are not against the elections as such, that they are making a stand against the federal government and also against all its police and its military forces. Now, although this might be the case, the point simply is that this will have an impact on the elections. The situation in this and many other parts of the country is exceedingly tense, and this ongoing situation only adding to that tension. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Kano, Nigeria.
Now, the battle in Kano isn't the only violence Nigerians face every day, from clan warfare to rebel uprisings. Turmoil is part of life all over this vast country. We're going to be talking more about that when we come back.